Welcome back, episode 37 of the Star Wars Newsnet Timeline Show. Luke, we've spent a lot of time delving into some books and comics, and now we're back in the world of television as we enter into season 2 of Young Jedi Adventures, the first 2 episodes of Young Jedi Adventures. And I have to admit, kind of ready to talk about the children again for a few weeks, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good to get back in. We spent quite an extended period of time in season 1 on this podcast, and so we've had a good little break from it. Really good sized chunk in the books and comics, and so it's gonna be nice to kind of visit that again here for about a month or so, maybe a month or
Yeah.
two. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to get back with our favorite Jedi children.
So here we go. Episode 1, part 1 is titled Heroes and Hot Shots. Essentially, we have new Padawan Wes Vinnick, Padawan to Master Zia, and he is joining the crew and he helps them stop the Gangles in the first episode, the pirate gang that we have become all too familiar with if we've been following along with the Timeline Show and Young Jedi Adventures. And the key lesson here that we have learned, and for those of you who haven't listened to one of our timelines about Young Jedi Adventures, we always give a brief synopsis of the episode, and then we get into the lesson of the story, because this is for the younglings of our own lives, and there's something even for us to take away from these. And then we'll get into some fun bullet points, of course. But the lesson here was learning that it's okay to ask for help. And that is what Wes Vinnick has to do, is he is kind of this hot shots looking for adventure Padawan. I could do it all myself. I think him and our good friend Dak would have been really good friends in Empire Strikes Back, because I feel like Wes Vinnick would have been ready to take on the whole Empire himself as well.
I think they would have been best friends. I'm so sad they couldn't have existed in the same part of the timeline, but they would have been two peas in a pod. Wes Vinnick is pretty cool. I like that season 2 is not just like more of season 1. Like, we actually have a new character here, a pretty cool new addition to the crew. So I really like that Wes is changing up the dynamic in a good way.
So what did you think overall? First, back into Young Jedi Adventures, we feeling good? Like, did you enjoy the first part, of the first episode overall with the Gangles? We have Wes Vinnick introducing some new characters, the Gangles' new ship, which we'll talk about.
I really did. I thought it was a nice start to season 2, where we get our same crew of 3 kids. We add in Wes, who's new, but our villain, we get to keep it as the Gangles. We're very familiar with them. So I just thought it was a nice, like, let's ease you back in. You might have been out of this for a while, but hey, season 2 starting. Let's add in one new component of Wes, and then we'll feel comfy with the rest of the episode.
I have one complaint.
One complaint.
And this is a big to me. This is actually a big complaint.
Okay.
I'm actually quite furious. We have the cliffhanger of season 1. We've left the children, not a cliffhanger, more of the reveal of season 1 ending with Tabor and everything, and then being Prince Cyrus. And then you open up episodes 1 and 2, 4 parts, because there's 2 parts per episode. The first 4 editions, essentially, of season 2 of Young Jedi Adventures, and there's no Tabor anywhere. None. Nowhere. I was furious. I know you've already you saw these. I watched them just now before we watched. I was ticked. I thought without a doubt Tabor would be in one of these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think I would have thought that too. It felt like we kind of started to have more of a cohesive storyline going with Young Jedi Adventures. We kind of singled in on what's revolving around Prince Cyrus and Tabor, his duality, like. So it felt like a little, I don't know if I want to call it a regression, but it was like, I felt like we singled in and dialed in on something, and now we're kind of just like, let's put that on the back burner.
It's really fine. I mean, they're gonna let that simmer for a little bit. It'll be exciting when we get Tabor. They're introducing some new characters. I can't complain too much because we have some other people we're gonna talk about. But anyway, that's my only complaint about everything as a whole. But of course, it's all in good fun. Young Jedi Adventures is great. So let's get into the notes, shall we, for episode 1. We have a new intro, and the new little intro sequence is pretty cool. The First of all, Tabor is in the intro, not in the first 4 episodes, but he's in the intro, and he's got like dual rods now. His little staff that he's been wielding, it's now like retractable. He's wielding 2 of them in the intro. I thought that was a really unique addition. We have some new Padawan, of course. I know that's Wes Vinnick. I didn't know that at the time when I was writing my notes. As I said, some new Padawan. We'll see. I wrote interesting vibe. And then the Gangles have a freaking cruiser now, like a giant like attack cruiser, which these people, we called them the worst pirates in the world last season because they couldn't do anything right. And now they just show, I'm expected to believe they're showing up with a freaking cruiser in episode 1 of season 2. You know, I was a little bit taken aback by that. And then there's Jedi vectors in this training or this opening sequence as well. What do we think about our new opening sequence, our intro for season 2?
I think it's nice. I think it's great. I'm also going to tell you that it has probably been a number of months since I've watched these episodes.
That's
so
true.
is it super fresh in my mind of what the new intro is? Not really. But as you're describing this, I do remember that there's some new stuff going on. So I like it. I like the I feel so this is kind of odd to say, but like I feel like whenever I'm watching these episodes, the intro is like super loud. Like they
Oh
mixed
yeah.
it's like like deafeningly loud. And so I'll have to turn the volume down like 10 and then the episode starts and they start talking and I'm like, okay, I got to turn it back up to like 20. So
Yes. Yeah, it's like you drop it down and you're crank it back up because we gotta go. Because then you go dun, 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 and then it's Kai going. So how are we doing today, everybody? Like, what's
right.
happening? You're like, all right, turn that down, and then you gotta bring it back up so we can listen to Kai. So Wes Vinnick, I'm not gonna lie, was not a fan early on. Not a fan of this guy. Voice seemed like he was a little bit too cool for school. That's the point of his character. And you know what? Those too cool for school characters, they're too cool for me too. I don't want anything to do with the too cool for school characters. And we'll say this because that may sound hypocritical considering Han Solo's like maybe my favorite character in history of mankind, but there's a little bit difference between the too cool for school kid and the scoundrel. So I just want to put that out there. The archetype is different.
It might be slight, but it is definitely different. Yeah, I've never quite like related to the character, but the character trope. But I was like, well, I think he hopefully gets humbled here quick, so that way we can kind of get him on
Oh, he
his
got humbled.
track to being like, yeah. So I was
He
kind
got
of
humbled.
glad that in this episode he quickly realizes like I should probably change how I roll. I should probably change how I do things.
He does give us a Moons of Viego reference in this first
Did
episode, which was good. So we're getting a little Phantom Menace action in this one, or a little Clone Wars season 1 action with the Blue Shadow virus and having to go off to find cures for it, right? And they end up in the
yeah,
Moons of Viego to do so. And was our good friend Zabo? Is that his name?
it might
Jabo.
Jabo. Is that Jabo Hood? Yes,
Yes,
I think
he's on
so.
and then
He
he's in
reprograms the
like the
droids.
area, and he's from the area, and then the angels come in towards the end of that like episode or like whatever, or the second episode towards the end of that arc. We see the angels
Yes,
of
they do.
Iago, and they do not look anything like Padme. I'll tell you that.
They don't. But if Anakin is just a kid and he's never been there, I guess I can't fault him for not knowing. But
I always wanted whenever that episode happened, like when the angel walks in, if they had just done like Anakin being like Padme. I mean, oh sorry, wow,
yeah,
or just like something, even though it would be totally stupid because they don't look anything like it, but just Anakin just having to him, it still looks like Padme.
Obi-Wan, is that Padme?
Obi-Wan, I thought Padme was trapped on Naboo. He's like, gives him a look. Do you think Anakin ever thanked those angels of Viego for helping him get married? Because he gave him the pickup line that was able to stay relevant for a long enough time for him to make an enormous comeback 11 years later.
It's my headcanon that he went back there and gave him a special like Jedi thank you. Like, you know what? It's because of you I have the love of my life. So thank you. Just gave him like fruit basket.
He gave him a fruit basket. He couldn't even put like some chocolate, M&Ms in there, even like just a little bit.
He's too cheap.
Like, he's too cheap. I feel like fruit would cost more than the M&Ms. Maybe if you
not on Coruscant.
Runs. Not on Coruscant. That's fair. The Coruscant's economic system is crazy. Living up on the upper levels of Coruscant has to be tough. So the younglings do get some fresh new drip in this episode, some new robes, which is pretty cool. And along with new drip, Crimson Firehawk by our good friend Nash Durango has been updated with a rotating wings for quicker steering. And I will also say that it seems like everyone levels up because the Gangles have a freaking attack cruiser as they're trying to steal ships in order to build an entire fleet. I was floored, to say the least, floored by all of these massive changes.
There's some massive changes going on. Indeed, it feels like these the Gangles are kind of like they're in over their heads. They're trying to get a fleet, aren't there? Just now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might just not remember this well. But aren't there just 3 of them at this point? Right?
They have a droid now.
Okay, so there's 4 of them.
They still have a droid. One of them is also like this big. Todo. Toda Joe.
Yeah, Toda.
Is his name.
Toda Joe.
Toda Joe, who absolutely gets like yeeted by Nubs in the battle. There he like goes up with something, and Nubs goes with his training lightsaber, gives like one swoop of the blade, and Toda Joe goes flying into the wall. I kind of felt bad for him because even Wes Vinnick got a taste of Nubs' power because he gave Nubs a handshake early on, and he's like, "Oh man, it's quite a grip you got there, buddy." And I'm like, "You got, come on now, that's the strongest Jedi youngling in the galaxy."
Yes. With the cruiser being in play, now I'm not gonna say it doesn't bother me at all, but I feel like canonically, I think it takes more than 4 people to crew a light cruiser that size.
So they got to have some more droids or some more people up there in general. You think?
I would feel like there should be, but hey, if there's only 4 of them running it, maybe they're just great pilots but bad pirates.
How I like that. How many Gangles do you think are in that attack cruiser?
Let's say they've upped their number to like 20.
Okay. Do you think they can get by with a skeleton crew of 20?
I think man, I think they could get by with a skeleton crew of 20.
Okay. All right. So it turns out Wes is not the worst. He comes around here at the end. I really like him. He seems like he has a good vibe with the group. I will say three other little things that I noticed. One was Selak with the Beskar staff, which is interesting that they're introducing her having a Beskar staff. What is with they're getting so many upgrades and they suck. They're terrible pirates. I want to see them pull off at least one heist. I want to see them pull off a heist. We haven't seen it.
Maybe they're really good off screen, and every single time that they fail, every time that they have ever failed has been on screen. They're just great
at the hands of the 8-year-olds.
Yes, absolutely. It's believable.
So good. Toda Joe, I wonder, I want to look this up. I didn't have time to look this up. I wonder do you know who voiced Babu Frick?
I don't know who voiced Babu Frick.
Toda Joe to me sounds just like Babu Frick. I don't know what it is, but Toda Joe just sounds like Babu Frick to me. Every time he gave a little word, it just sounded to me like he was saying, "Hey," or "The droid is ready." Something like that. Whatever. That was my best Babu Frick impersonation I can give you today, but I'll try to get better at it for the future. So that was one that stood out to me. And then one of the ships that they were trying to steal, low-key looked like a early model of like a Jedi starship from Revenge of the Sith. They kind of look similar.
Ooh,
And it made me
yeah.
wonder if that was intentional, like this, because it definitely wasn't the same, but it did look like a similar model. Like maybe if this could have been an earlier rendition of what became a Jedi starship. I mean, just looked a little bit similar. So
I fact checked it just now. It is a different voice actor between Toto Joe and Babu Frick, but they're
okay.
both women, and don't think I saw that coming. I thought it would have. I don't know. They were. I kind of thought it would be a man's
Was that
voice doing
was
the
that
like.
you like trying
Hey.
to was that you trying to give me some level of credit? Like, well, they're both women, so at least you were close. Like, like you
Just
didn't.
trying to
It's not the
placate you.
same person, but you got. They're both women, so congratulations, Tyler. You're.
I mean, that wasn't my intent behind it. I'm glad maybe you took it that way, but I was just. I
Who
thought it
is
was
the
going to
voice
be.
actress? Who
So for
voices
Toto
Toady
Joe,
Joe?
we have Shelby Young.
Shelby Young, you are a Jim. You are a Jim, friend of the pod. Shelby Young, friend of the timeline show. Shelby Young, love that. Love that.
And Shirley Henderson for Babu
Oh, okay.
Frick. Shirley
Okay.
Henderson she's Moaning Myrtle.
Yes, yes, I should have. Yes, I recognize that from Harry Potter. Very good. I didn't know that was Babu. That's crazy. The Moaning Myrtle to Babu Frick arc has to be insane. That's range. That's
That's
range.
range.
If you're doing Moaning Myrtle and Babu, that's the definition of range. So part 2 was titled A Jedi or a Pirate. And this one is basically Kai is helping one of the new younglings on Tanu named Bryn out as he's really just trying to find his place on Tanu. He is just missing Coruscant. He misses his friends at the Jedi Temple. And he kind of runs away a little bit. He thinks he's running off to Coruscant, but he accidentally gets a little bit of a detour to Yarm Tower, which is the known pirate hangout, where he makes a friend named Clave who does not have his best interests out for him and basically wants him to be a pirate. And the two of them get into some trouble. Nash lets Kai borrow the Firehawk. And of course, he crash lands it. And basically, at the end of the episode, is when Kai convinces Bren to join with him, turn his back on being a pirate, come back, be a Jedi, put yourself out there, try to make some new friends. And it's just a nice little lesson about, sometimes you have to put yourself out there in uncomfortable situations to make the right things happen down the line. Like if you want to make friends, you gotta be willing, you gotta be bold, and that's okay. But also, it is okay to be missing things at the same time.
Yeah, I thought that the balance it's hard to strike, but it was struck here at the end, and that's the point of the episode is like you don't have to erase your past or try to forget it. You can still miss things, but if you're going to wind up in a new place and you want to thrive in the new place, you got to be vulnerable, open yourself up,
Mhm.
put yourself in maybe some uncomfortable, controlled,
Right.
uncomfortable positions, and grow. That's how you grow is
Mhm.
to stretch and not be complacent. So,
It's true.
Bren, I'm glad you went on the journey you went through because now you're going to be just one of the best Jedi of the era.
I can't wait. Next episode 3 runs away again. I'm calling it. Calling it right now.
Learned nothing.
He's just a runner. So, what was that? What's the line I'm trying to think of? Something and learned nothing. What's the line? Foreseen and done nothing. What's that from? Oh, all right, we'll come back to it.
You got me. I don't know.
It's just as he has foreseen. Oh, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. It's whenever. So I don't know. Done nothing it's the line. Lord of the Rings. Return of the King. Denethor basically is running Gondor into the ground, and the armies of Mordor are here. They're trying to attack, and Gandalf's like, "Oh my goodness, we're all doomed." And some random dude that's just kind of like kiss ass to Denethor is like, "Long is just as the steward has said, like long as he foreseen this doom." And Gandalf's like, "Foreseen and done nothing."
That's
Anyway, okay.
right.
Okay, that line is going to be stuck in my head all day if I didn't come to that conclusion. So we're bringing back to Star Wars now. A couple of fun notes from the episode. we go to Haps for the first time in the season, and Hap, what a guy! Like just making dessert for the younglings. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing from this four-armed creature. What kind of creature is Hap again?
Ooh, we have definitely mentioned it before, and I don't have it back on deck on my notes, but he's um I mean the first introduction I saw to that species was Grease from Jedi Fallen Order, but
Right.
um I could find out real quick. But he's probably the best ice cream scooper maker in the galaxy with those four arms. I mean, you could make an ice cream sundae in a couple seconds, I would say.
That's why he stays open, so long there on Tanu. That's why he's put everyone else out of business. In fact, really. Let's see here. And I have a lot of notes from this. It was nice to see Kai in a leadership role, like a mentorship role to Bryn, because there's just so much that we've seen him have to learn and follow, and we're going to see that, and we see that in the next episode and everything. But it was nice to be able to see like a little bit of a reversal for Kai, and like he's able to take the little ones under their wing a little bit. And I guess if kids are watching the show and maybe they're getting older with the show, it's been a year or two, maybe there's someone in their life that they can oh, I was just in that grade last year, or maybe their little brother or sister is a little older. Oh, I can help them through this. And I thought that was a nice way of giving Kai a different look this episode.
Yeah, that's a great point with the real life application there. But also in universe, like we're seeing these kids who are season one, they are the ones being taught all the lessons. They're learning all these things about their life. And here's in season two, we're already seeing the fruits of that come up, and they are, already in season two, episode one, they're teaching and showing the way for new younglings. So
This is the
I
way.
like that. They're saying this is the way. And
Ah.
that's why the Beskar staff is there. It's all connected to Mandalore.
Kai actually is going to be the first foundling for the Children of the Watch.
Ooh. Well, that's
Bold.
confirmed here. You heard it here. Thank you, Michael Olson, for the breadcrumbs you've shown us.
Michael Olson, friend of the pod. Anyway, so I like to take notes. Like I take my notes in real time as I'm watching, and so you'll appreciate this. I said, "Oh, great! Nash is letting Kai borrow the Firehawk again. Crash land coming in 5 seconds." My next note, right on cue.
Right on cue. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we've ever seen Kai pilot without crashing.
Definitely not the Firehawk.
Definitely not the Firehawk.
He's had some training runs with his, Vector, but
right.
But now every time he touches the Firehawk yoke, that ship is going down. That ship is not doing well.
I said Clave sucks, and then I said poor Clave, because clearly he just wants a friend. He's basically just wants a friend, and he doesn't really have any sort of support structure, and it's easy to hate that person and be upset with them or have less patience for someone like that. But then when you realize, well, this person probably has never had any sort of support structure in their life, has never had anyone to show them the way, as you kindly put earlier, then it makes sense that what are they going to do? Whatever they want. Definition of a pirate for him is we can just do whatever we want. And so I have more sympathy, especially when you see the look on Clave's face when Brent does decide, I don't want to go with you after all.
Yeah, it does not excuse his actions wholly, but it does explain them. So it helps you have sympathy for like, man, this kid really just needs structure.
Right.
But he doesn't have it. So this is what happens when you're a kid in the universe and you don't have the Jedi Order to look after you.
So last thing was, I don't know if this was a direct nod to Batman or not, but the person they get the part from at one point was like, you want to have some fun? Let's have some fun. And I'm like, as soon as she said that, I was thinking to myself, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. So that's what I was thinking of immediately.
I think we even
Episode
said
2.
that line on the live show too, this past Thursday.
Did I
I
say that?
think you said that as well on this live show that got brought up at some point.
I don't know why. I haven't watched that movie in years. So I don't know why I'm seeing it everywhere. And oh my gosh, I had to freaking look at so many kids I was helping this morning at this project thing we were doing, wanted to buy skibbity toilet toys and stuff, and it was like the meme uh of Tom Holland Spider-Man. The Spider-Man, he's like, everywhere I go, I see his
I see his
face. And
face.
it's Tony Stark everywhere I go, and I see freaking skibbity toilet face there. Oh my gosh. Drives me insane.
Uh-huh.
So, episode 2, part 1, the Wrestler Roundup. Kai and Bell, Bell Zettifar is back, and Kai and Bell's help solve a disagreement among townspeople and rustlers. We learn not to judge or assume what people will say, and we learn to be nicer to people the first time around as they get to know us. As there's a group of these 3 individuals where they're ancestors left the town and were promised part of the herd, but they never got it. So they just decided to steal the whole herd because they felt like the townspeople would say no because they're kind of mean. And then the townspeople and the mayor just assumed that they were thieves that wanted nothing, no good intentions, and were evil people trying to hurt them. And once we talked about it, we talked through the situation, we realized, oh, hey, we have a lot in common here. Let's help each other out. But the real thing I wrote here, all caps, was Bell with like 18 L's, like Bell. And then I wrote Ember. And then I wrote Loading No, because we don't know where at in the timeline this falls. But since the season 1 ended with the dedication of Starlight Beacon, we do know that Bell is at this point without Loden, and we don't know how far along in the process this is. I'm just going to assume that it's close enough to the dedication of Starlight Beacon that this is in between Rising Storm and Light of the Jedi. We're just going to go with that for now. I mean, since there's nothing confirmed, but actually, it has to be, because I believe Bell had his Padawan braid still in that episode, so he would still be a Padawan. And so I think it's after Rising Storm he's like gets knighted. So
Man, okay. I am not super solid on my Bell Zettifar knighting when that would have happened, but you sound
because
like you're
he
pretty confident on that.
refuses, I'm rereading Rising Storm. I just read the first 2
Yes, that's
chapters,
right.
but what I remembered is at the end of Light of the Jedi, though, remember, Indira becomes his master again because he
Indira
refuses to
Stokes.
be knighted without Loden, because that was
Yeah.
the whole thing, and he wasn't ready to move on yet, and he was so broken. So if he has this right now, I'm assuming he's it has to be before Rising Storm, because he's still a Padawan in the beginning of Rising Storm as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. Yeah.
So
That makes
in
sense.
between. So we know that obviously they make no. I carefully watched this episode. Obviously, is there any hint of what's going on in like the main High Republic sphere? Just as a nod to something, and there's not. There is nothing at all, and it's essentially just Bell seems to be in good spirits. He's Bell about things, but I'm watching this and I'm going, I'm thinking about all the inner turmoil that our boy is going through right now, and it has to be brutal.
Yeah. Since if you consume everything as it comes out for Star Wars, which it's very hard to do, but if you have read Rising Storm already and then you're watching this show, like you do know that Bell is completely torn up with the disappearance of Loden Greatstorm. He's not
Mhm.
at this point, he's just missing. Um
Well, they
later
presume he's dead.
they do
He thinks he's. I
that's
mean,
right.
he
They
thinks
do
he's
presume
dead.
he's dead. Bell
We
himself
know
is
he's
not
just
ready
missing.
to, yeah, not ready to give up on him. So Bell, either way you look at it, he's
Mhm.
very torn up about this. So for him to be putting on a good face and leading Kai through this pretty difficult, like, microcosm of a socio, like, political situation of like dealing with
Yeah,
like the implications are kind
that's
of
good.
crazy here.
It's good. I love that
Yeah.
we have like a true Western episode of Young Jedi
Yes.
Adventures. I mean, they're literally wrangling things in as this episode goes.
They're
Is this the
yeah.
first canonical appearance on screen of an actual Nerf herders?
On screen Yes, I believe I wrote this in my notes. Like, I do believe this is the first time we have seen them on screen for nerfs and nerf herders. But I can say that nerfs have shown up in a visual media in the 2015 comic run from Marvel
Okay. Okay.
mainline. That is
Okay. But this is the
why
first time we see the Nerf herders
I don't.
on our screens,
Yes.
though. Like in terms
So
of our screens. Okay.
in Empire Strikes Back, Leia uses the your scruffy looking nerf herder,
Right. Of course.
and we actually find out in that comic that there were nerfs that they had to transport aboard the Millennium Falcon, so it smelled like nerfs, and so that's why he smells like a nerf herder because it's actually like literally true.
I love that. And yeah, so we get or look at Nerf herders here. Another thing that I wrote down was what in the Jamie Lannister looking rustler? Because one of the rustlers was just this regal looking, blonde haired, you just muscular, just gorgeous looking wrangler that they have over there. And I'm like, did they just literally import Jamie Lannister in to be one of these nerf herders? I didn't realize that and he escaped Westeros, and he did not die from bricks falling on his head like the atrocity that I thought happened to him. And instead, he went and joined the High Republic era of storytelling to live out his life as a nerf herder. But strangely enough, I guess because it's Star Wars, it's really easy for him to have a second hand. But he did appear to have two intact hands in this episode.
That's my thing about Star Wars is like you can watch someone get mutilated somehow, some way, get something lopped off, but Luke loses his hand and he just kind of just gets a new hand and it's kind of fine.
It's great.
So it's my favorite thing about Star Wars. Really, you're
Don't
never too
lose
far
your
gone.
head and you'll be fine.
There you go. Don't
Pretty
lose it.
much. I mean, Darth Maul was severed in half. He was just fine.
He was just fine. He was okay. He was
Yeah.
thriving actually.
He snapped out of it, and he had down spell. Who wouldn't? You get severed in half. We have a tough time for a minute, but he recovered. He bounced back, and he did pretty well for himself. He was thriving for a while, as you said. I agree. Last thing here was Bell had the line of the episode for me when Bell was like, or when Kai said, "I thought we weren't going to fight," and Bell said, "We are not going to fight. We are defending ourselves. There is a difference, important difference." That's the key.
That's a really good line. I'd forgot that, but that perfect coming from Bell because he is so
Bell's
young, but
legit.
he just gets it from a young age. He gets it.
This is also just funny because he's swinging his lightsaber. He said we're not going to fight like 100 times, and then he's the first one to ignite his lightsaber in that moment. And Kai just looks at him and says, "I thought we weren't going to fight. We're we're defending ourselves. This is aggressive negotiations we're talking about now. It's perfectly fine."
Yeah, perfect.
So part two, new discovery. Liz and Myra new character, right? New character.
Believe so. Yes.
Yes, I don't think we've met Myra. Another, Jedi youngling in the new temple, and Myra loves creatures just as much as Liz does, and they're off, riding around on Dunnels, and ultimately, our good friend Ari makes an appearance to send them on a mission to find a leaper, which is this rare creature to get a picture of it for the Galactic Creature Guide and everything. But the lesson here was about studying creature behavior before you jump in because you don't know like if what you're doing is okay. So like they scared the creature too much at first, but by studying its behavior, they were able to reel it in with a it looked like, and help out. But so like the lesson was, make sure you are looking and studying things before just rushing in sometimes. And I thought it was put a nice little bow on 2 episodes. It was nice to get a less episode here. We had, obviously mostly Kai is our main guy. So we had mostly Kai moments, and we had the trio in the first one, but then Kai episodes. And now we round out with a good list episode. I'm assuming we'll have a Nubs episode coming up.
I really hope so because the three of them work together pretty well. They've written them to be like they jive. They just work
Yeah.
together, and I like when we get the chance to actually kind of separate them out narratively and get a Kai centric episode, get a Liz centric episode. So I would love I'd love to get a Nub-centric episode, maybe in episodes 3 and 4. Maybe
They're
we'll
the
start off
next
strong there too.
gen. They're the next gen firebrands. You have Stellan, Avar, Elzar, and then Nubs, Kai, and Liz are going to take the mantle
The
from
next gen.
them.
I love that, actually. I really do.
Absolute cinema. Absolute cinema. So Dunnels, another one. Ari is back. So Luke, of course, every time Ari is in an episode, I have to ask you if you are still paying your monthly dues for the Galactic Society of Creatures. Are you
Things are
still
getting
a
harder.
proud?
The price has increased, but you know what? I'll break the bank for the Galactic Creature Guide. Absolutely.
Inflation has even hit the SGCA, I think is what it's called, or something like
Yeah.
that.
So I'm still there. I love what they do for the
Love
nature of
the
the
cause.
galaxy, and so I'm supporting no matter what until I'm broke. They're gonna have my
I'm
last
thinking,
dollar,
I'm
or my
thinking
last
of Nemec.
credit.
I'm thinking of what does Nemec say and Andor. He's like, I can sense it. And he's like, what? His belief in the cause. Like that's you and for
It's really
the Galactic Society of Creatures Association. Your belief in the cause is
absolutely.
strong.
It's strong and it's never wavering.
And Liz, whenever she's needing an little inspo, she listens to the Luke Sheehan Galactic Society Manifesto or Creature Society Manifesto, and he's like, "Whenever you are looking for a creature you are unable to find, remember this: try."
Try.
And then she goes off into the jungles of Tanu and searches. So I said this: Liz is now put in charge of this mission, and she's not really ready for it, but it was a good for her to also. She's in a leadership role. We saw Kai do this, and now we're seeing Liz do this. So that was kind of cute. It was nice to see. And she's definitely not ready. She didn't really assert herself like she needed to at the beginning, and Myra's just running ranshot all over her. It made me think of, if sometimes when I was inexperienced as a teacher, maybe, and there's some days where the classroom just kind of maybe eluded me a little bit. The management just kind of was a little bit much, and I was like, I cannot get them to focus or do what I would like them to do. I think Liz was experiencing some of that in this episode.
Yeah, I related pretty hard to that one. When I've been put in a position or two of like trying to round up some kids or like a youth group or something, like I've only recently come into being a little bit more authoritative to like that level that you kind of need.
What's your
I've been
voice?
way
What's your authoritative voice?
hey, settle down, get back, get off that, get off that. So just kind of
Okay.
a little bit louder because normally I'm pretty soft spoken. So if I get a little bit of grit in there, people will listen. The kids will listen at least. So
Do they?
sometimes it works better. It's we're improving. Okay. But I've
What's
definitely
our
been in
what's our
situations
work
where
to
they get
not
away.
work situations? Like, is it like a 50-50, like 60-30 or 60-40?
We've improved to maybe 40-60. Okay. I'm still not
40-60.
I'm not I'm not your leader for corralling kids. They love me. I'm often pretty good with them, but someone else needs to lead.
This is why when you're watching your nephew recently, or is your
Yep.
cousin?
Yep, nephew.
Nephew, yeah, this is why you're just the fun uncle.
Exactly. So I got to get better with maybe commanding respect as an authoritative figure and not just simply as a friend. That's where I might fail.
This is why you were relating with Liz, right? You were
I
right
really
there with
was.
Liz. You
Really
were in the
was.
thick of it. So last thing here, and this is kind of random, but the leaper has two legs, and it kind of like runs on these two legs. And I don't know why I just wrote. I love a good two-leg creature. Like anytime we get a little two-leg, like the blurgs, I love a good blurg. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting how they have two legs. I'm a leaper fan, which is obviously a leaper is like a microscopic next to a blurg, but this little tiny little creature, frog-like thing with two legs and a tail, and it just kind of, guess what, leaps around.
Almost kangaroo like, maybe?
I mean, yeah, but it's the size of it's like a
But it's the
mouse,
size of
basically.
like like a kitten. So
Maybe a tiny kitten.
I love that.
Tiny
I
kitten.
love when we get just the weirdest creatures because it's a list episode. It's my favorite thing.
Right, of course. Well, Luke, Good stuff as always. Thank you everyone for joining us for this week's timeline show. We'll be back with the next 2 episodes of Young Jedi Adventures next week. As it's kind of crazy to say, we are making our way through the High Republic. We got a couple months here of Young Jedi Adventures, and then we'll be finished. We'll be on the basically wave 2 of phase 1. And before you know it, we're gonna be on phase 3, and then the summer is gonna be here, and we're gonna be moving into some Clone Wars, I feel like, before long. So that's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's like kind of hitting that like we're not going to be in the High Republic forever, which is kind of what it felt like at
Mhm,
times. Like, man, I'm going to be in Young Jedi Adventures forever, but no, like
mhm,
you keep making episodes, you keep knocking stuff out of the way. Like, we're going to be halfway through phase 1 here very soon.
mhm.
We're going to be into phase 3. It just goes, it rolls. So
It's going. I love it.
yeah.
It's gonna be great. Join us next Thursday for the Star Wars Newsnet live show. I will not be on this week, but I'm sure someone else, like Luke, will you be holding down the fort?
I will definitely be there.
Okay,
And I
so
will
Luke
be
will be holding down the fort.
attempting to hold down the fort.
Okay,
We'll
so Luke
see
will be
how
holding
I
down the
do
fort.
against Nate.
So Luke and Nate will be holding down the fort next Thursday. They'll be doing a Skeleton Crew review and anything else that pops up this week in the Star Wars world. I'll tell you this right now: if something major happens in the Star Wars world, I might force myself into the chat for a little while or something. I might have to do something. Even Janelle will have to. I'll just sneak away for a minute and do that. So we'll see about that. But everyone, I don't know if I'll have a Monday pod or not this week. So if you see one, it's there. It's great. If you don't, then guess what? We're waiting another couple weeks until life settles down. So for Light and Life, everyone, remember that we are all the Republic.